You guys want to watch some VDS? I do have some playlist. I don't know if it's any good. Sure, let's react to good old Cole. See what he has to say. I hope it's not just him patterning words, because if he's just gonna start patterning words, I'm just gonna stop watching. If he's gonna say everything I need to know, like at the very start, like, ooh, green leaf clover means green mage. Fuck's sake.
I'll tell you more than just Yoshi P's shirt has green turtles on it that have shells on them, where Shell is one of the most iconic green mage spells in past Final Fantasy.
It's not just green mage, is it? Healers had shell as well. Protect or shell, or one of those. And we had it in Baja as well. Not that iconic.
Games. And yes, the green mage icon is shown in the final
Let me make it full screen, actually.
cutscene that we have before October's fan.
Okay, people are assuming this, but this could literally be a symbol of anything. We could be just going somewhere where green mages hang out. It doesn't mean necessarily we are the ones that are getting this job.
FanFest coming up, and then the
This literally might be a job for the next expansion after, for 8.0.
Japanese FanFest in January. We have seen this icon all over green mage official artwork. Boring.
He says boring, but it's like, these are like the same 3 pictures everyone is showing. There might be a few more from Brave Exodus, but this is pretty much the same.
Want more proof? The shirt could be a billion things, including, I guess pick
Why is he copying the same pictures?
Demancer. I'm 100% gonna get an angry comment about that. I have to warn that some evidence that I'm using may honestly demoralize you guys to hear, because you'll be like, hey, that's pretty much already in the game. Which actually in reality only
He's pandering, he's fucking padding words again.
serves as a further piece of evidence that expecting something closer to home in the current design space with existing code, existing support frameworks, rather than something totally outlandish
He's padding.
is more realistic.
You're telling me you'd believe it more likely if no, there will be no job homogenization, this 2-minute combat is being redesigned, a new DPS job will have a substantial new system and no builder spender. What the fuck?
If you expected dimension-shifting, world-altering, totally reimagining Final Fantasy XIV's combat structure in the 2-minute window, well, disclaimer over. Green Mage will be a hammer-wielding support-based...
Why hammer? Why the fuck would it be a hammer one? What do you mean? No, it's not gonna be a hammer. What the fuck?
caster as a direct contrast to Black Mage and be similar to the Bard or the...
Just because the other ones had hammer, it's not even like a two-handed hammer. It's a hammer and a shield, and it's like there were reasons for that, because it was also a melee job in a sense in a lot of the like tactics and the what is the War of Visions, that one. There's like why is he showing the 8 DPS, by the way, of Bard and Dancer? The two are... He's showing 8 DPS of Bard and Dancer. Fuck's sake.
Dancer in the physical range category that we have today, where Green Mage will sacrifice large chunks of its personal damage to pass out to allies in the forms of buffs.
I don't think it's going to be like a lot of buffs. It might be just defensives buff. It might be debuffs even, not even buffs. But it's like, I don't think... Like, how much... Why would you want a support caster? We rely on casters to actually do damage. I don't think it's going to be an RDPS, because if we're going to have an entire group full of, like, multiple RDPS functions, it's like... Eh.
Or also debuffs to enemies. Think of something like Scholar's Chain Stratagem. That's a debuff placed on an enemy. The caster...
See, change stratagem, I agree. Like, that kind of shit, that's good. Trick attack, good. If this caster, if, let's say, it is Grid Mage, I'd be down for this, but not buffing the group.
Role currently does not have a job that fulfills this Bard role, where it's giving out all this damage. Yes, Red Mage has a buff. Yes, Summoner has a buff. But
we don't have a job that does this, but yes, we have this job, and yes, we also have this job.
it does not come even close to the support options of Bard or Dancer. Green Mage will also provide multiple forms of party mitigation like Red...
No, that's not happening. They might have 2 cooldowns. One is Adult, the other one is like just a group mitigation. No, it's not gonna be like a big array of tools to do that. That's what shield healers are for, and tanks.
Red Mage's magic barrier in the form of Green Mage's shell, because, well, it's literally Green Mage's shell.
You know what I think shell is gonna be? A 2-minute burst thing. It's gonna apply shell on people. If it breaks, then the mage gets damage buff. Something like that. I don't think it's gonna be like a big fucking thing that raises resistance or whatever the fuck. Or like a big cooldown. They might have a cooldown, but I don't think that shell, like, as a signature spell for a caster, I don't think it's gonna be defensive.
Green Mage also will provide some party healing akin to Dancer's Curing Waltz or Improvisation.
Fuck no. No, don't. Look, Sage was supposed to have Meteor. Sage was supposed to be swinging around fucking black magic and white magic. Technically red mage, but better. But Sage was reworked in something different. Pretty sure this is going to be here as well. It's going to be just reworked.
Or Summoner's Phoenix Everlasting Flight, AoE heal for the party, or Phoenix Rekindle single target heal. It would fulfill the other half of old Summoner fantasy that...
Big Summon, Affliction Warlock. What are these? Shadowbringer Summoner Fantasy. Problem, which fantasy Summoner meant? What the fuck? We already have a Summoner. Summoner's fine. Summoner is genuinely fucking fine right now. The way it is. Sure, it's boring, but they will build up upon it. I'm pretty sure because no job is gonna be that fucking boring for too long.
That we had in Shadowbringers, where Summoner's Shadowbringers implementation was in constant conflict between being a big summoner like Yuna from Final Fantasy X.
Big summoner like Yuna.
And bringing out big beasts of Eld, and then the other...
I'm 2 minutes into this video, this might take a while.
Other half of the fantasy in conflict with that, an Affliction Warlock from World of Warcraft. Summoner's Endwalker rework dropped the Affliction Warlock half and focused purely on the summons, making the Summoner vision a much more
What was the point with this, by the way? I don't remember. We're still talking about Green Mage, right? I don't remember the point for this.
Streamlined, much more focused realization in the game. Meaning that Green Mage would fill the void, fill that niche, and revolve around
What void? We have a void? I don't think we do.
Spewing tons of damage over time effects and double down way past the Summoner of Shadowbringers now that it's free of pets and have interactions focusing
Green Mages didn't have pets before.
Down on that damage over time effect of its kit. Current Summoner fulfills the big summon fantasy, and now we're missing out on that Affliction Warlock fantasy. And hopefully that perked your interest, and I'm not just spitballing, I'm gonna be maybe at risk of disappointing people with how grounded this theory
We're 30 minutes in, you're already disappointed in me.
Gets. So what Green Mage has been in past Final Fantasy games is it primarily revolves
Final Fantasy Tactics, he's not even like looking at the other ones.
Around buffing allies.
A Green Mage lends support on the battlefield. Again, it's like Sage is supposed to also be something different, but it's not. Why? We literally, like, when they said Sage... Actually, they didn't say Sage, but it's like they did announce that it was Sage, and everyone realized that it's got to be a different job because of how it was shown in the trailer. It's like, I refuse to believe Green Mage is going to be literally the same. I'm pretty sure they're going to revamp Green Mage into something different, specifically to make it a caster, because it's not a support. It's not going to be a healer. We all thought Green Mage would eventually be a healer, but it's not. If it's a caster, whatever the fuck is written here, it doesn't matter. We're not going to get hammers with them either.
And debuffing enemies. Let's not get...
It's from our rechat. I avoided my heart from old summoner. Wow, that's cool. I don't. But whatever hole I don't have, I filled it with new summoner. Yeah.
Get too deep, because that's like saying Red Mage doesn't cast haste. Well...
Also, Dark Knight is supposed to use HP for damage. Yes. I mean, it used to. I remember there were some skills that actually use health.
It doesn't cast haste in 14. So we're
at least in Stormblood, I think.
Old concept down to Green Mage will have party utility.
I think there was like 1 or 2 skills. I don't remember correctly.
As do most caster DPS and do damage over time.
Provide party utility, dots, one with some fun interactions. I don't know what interactions is. Okay, I can agree on dots. Maybe they're gonna get dots. Dots are cool. not in this game, but in general, dots are cool. But utility, I just don't buy it. I genuinely don't. I don't buy a caster that's going to be specifically focusing on party utility. Just don't buy that concept here. You gain blood from getting damage from buff, and Abyssal Drain was spammable. Yeah.
Time effects and have some unique special status effects layered onto those damage over time effects.
Status effects no. Because if that was the case, then Green Mage would literally be Biss. Green Mage would literally replace the second melee. Green Mage would be Biss in every fucking static, if that was the case.
More on status effects in a bit. Now let's get into the evidence. First piece of evidence is that our developers actually do listen to the player base. They know people miss damage over time effect summoner with all the interplay.
I like how certain he is that this caster is gonna have dots.
And all that. They have heard that loud and clear, and yes, they even stated in an interview they do not want to give Scholar back their old damage over time effects back, which, bummer for healers. I was one of those healers that was like, oh shit, when I heard that. But yes, however, that means that they heard my and the rest of our...
Back to raid, ugh. Break again, it's time to finish watching the funny video. Whatever the fuck this was. Right, where were we? Okay, so he was confirming something.
Do not want to give Scholar back their old damage over time effects back, which, bummer for healers.
Yeah.
I was one of those healers that was like, oh shit, when I...
Hold on. There you go. Let's try this again.
I heard that. But yes, however, that means that...
First of all, we do not expect healers to contribute to DPS. Ooh. Yes, you do. However, we know a lot of the cutting-edge players enjoy this aspect about the job, and that those progressing in the raid early on use their height. This height to make it so that the idea was more approachable and less punishing, so that if a player wants to try it, they aren't sacrificing all of their healing capabilities. I do agree with this, that, like, I'm pretty sure the reason they removed dots is because there was probably a lot of wipes back in Stormblood, because some fucking scholar was refreshing his dots instead of healing. I'm saying I want you to really enforce this to your viewers. I firmly believe it shouldn't be mandatory, and we do not have the expectation of them to DPS. That's not true. No. You have Smith. I know I'm disagreeing with Yoshi P, but they literally have the Smith. You know, the fucking guy that people go to every first like 5 levels until level 30 to get the gear and the earring and etc. It literally teaches you, like, if there's nothing to heal, DPS.
That they heard my and the rest of our feedback wanting damage over time back and the summoner rework. And our developers are very receptive to feedback. Very, very receptive. Similar line of thought for a second. Let's talk hammers. Gaia...
I don't want to talk hammers. We don't need hammers. Warrior technically has hammers.
used a hammer and Shadowbringers, and there...
So what? And every other fucking two-handed job got her hammered now.
was, to say the least, an outcry for hammers to be used.
Is Gaia green mage? Why would you even think that? She's just the most of the time mage. Wait, hold on. The hammer wasn't meant to be part of the story, but was drawn with her character, and they said they added anyways. She has a hammer and can use time magic. I'm down for this. Okay, so if she's already using time magic, she's not a green mage. Like, green mage has buffs and debuffs, but none of them were like hate. Well, I guess they had haste, but like none of the any particular ones that would specifically be time mage magic. Watch it be another limited job. Trying to think of another I don't think no one's foreshadowing anything. Like, we're not getting any of the, you know, gun shields or whatever the fuck other weapons we've seen in the game. I think people are just overthinking about the hammers. I do not believe we're getting a hammer.
That's a huge understatement, honestly, guys. You know, people were going freaking wild for her hammer weapon type, so much so that we did see it even add into the cash shop a few years ago. Given development cycles and
a few years ago? Wasn't that literally just less than a year ago? It's very recent.
Time, it would probably most likely align.
Because like green mages also use swords, they use staffs, they use wands. Just because, like, and the green mages in other games, they don't use the two-handed ones. They use, like, one-handers with shields. Sometimes a mace.
Perfectly with Dawn Trail's job development. Green mages use hammers and maces, and I doubt that it will be this, but imagine a hammer in one hand and a Geomancer bell in the other. That'd
No.
be bold. That'd be incredible.
No, that would be too janky, too clunky. A hammer and the bell. However you want to play this is a bit too much. Like,
But
maybe use something as a focus, but it's not gonna be like a bell.
given the hammer mania with Gaia, it'll likely just be a hammer or a mace with no bell.
It's not gonna be a hammer, I swear.
Needs more cowbell. Next point, let's talk about Kryl. Love it or
Because why would you give a ranged job a melee weapon? It's however you want to look at it, it just doesn't make sense.
hate it, Kryl
Hell, nobody cares about autos on casters except for maybe scholars and black mages. Just because they're the only ones capable of optimizing that shit.
has been a character intimately tied to the next caster job. She has been seen with
How is she intimately tied with that? She's an arcanist.
extreme sensitivity with Aether, and she has been seen clearly fulfilling a healing role across multiple expansions, even in so much as chastising us or just standing there as healers ourselves in Stormblood, or brought in to assess the health of the Scions and then support them living through what happened, you know, during Shadowverse.
So she's a sage. She's a sage at most. She's a scholar at best. How would she transition towards nature and buff debuff magic?
So I'm trying to be as spoilerless as possible. So to say the least, Kryl's job would be steeped deep in utility.
Like, at the most she might be like the next healer job. I don't think she's gonna have a job change in the next expansion.
And assisting others just because that's who she is. Now,
You know who might get a job change? Fucking Grahatia. Or even Stenian. Yeah.
let's knock out potential party utility Green Mage would see and why it's realistic, because it's both easy to describe and interesting, because Green Mage's buff and debuff.
It's not gonna be that. Because it's a caster job, it's not a support. It's not a healer. It's a, you are very hung up on the description of the job from previous games. Meanwhile, we literally have seen this where jobs have come into our game and they are vastly different from what their counterpart in other games are. Some of them are like on point, but some of them they had to revamp and change completely.
Buff fantasy, because it's not just buffing allies, it's also casting debuffs on enemies. This absolutely exists in modern Final Fantasy XIV.
It does, but sage skills. Oh goddamn! I'm gonna be a B bio. I'm gonna finish this after. I'm gonna finish watching this after the raid. I can't. Right, I have returned. Okay, fine. Background footage, Kryl assessing physical health with the signs of the... So she should be a healer. She should be a support.
Heavy hitting first note is I don't expect Green Mage to have revive, as the developers already stated that they were assessing even Summoner's ability to bring revive. They said it a bit over a year ago.
They should remove that. The summoners not really even using the revive. I mean, maybe they should have it, but it's like... using it just kind of grieves us. Just like it makes us... I don't know, it's hard to say. Like for Red Mage, for example, it's kind of a natural thing. You're gonna lose maybe a GCD, which is like equivalent to basically missing a couple of procs. On Summit, on the other hand, the Swiftcast is part of our rotation. Kinda needed now.
Summoner may not even have revive in Dawn Trail, so this is off the table. Remember Yoshi P's green turtles
I
with
wouldn't mind
shells on
that, to
them
be
on
fair.
his shirt? Shell is an iconic Green Mage spell, however we already have Shell exist in
Iconic Green Mage spell.
game. It is better known as Magic Barrier
No, that's not what Shell is.
for Red Mage. Shell has always been protection against magic, and this is where a lot of the parallels to what we already
We have so many protections against magic. It's not out of the realms of possibility to just have another Shell. We have Shell and Baja. It is a spell people can get.
have in-game today come into play. Discourage
I don't think has Cole even done Baja, because I think he's missing out. Like, why is he comparing Shell, the spell that we already have in certain content, to specifically another spell?
to some, I'm sure to hear. Yes, expect homogenization to persist to some degree in Dawn Trail. To imagine otherwise, I don't believe is realistic, and so imagining homogenization in the next jobs, I think, is more realistic. I am literally gonna get beat up in the comments, but you know it's true.
No.
You know it's true.
No.
Before you leave telling me to die, you know.
I'm not gonna tell you that. Like, Cole, you're entitled to your opinion. It's fine if you got your theories, but a lot of your theories right now are just based on nothing. You're like grasping at straws. You're like trying to you're not even the right straws. Like, we have a shell spell in the game. And for all we know, this might literally be very unrelated. The whole shell fucking theory.
No, it's true.
Because they might literally just revamp. If we get Green Mage, they might literally just revamp the Green Mages, and the shell might have been just the most, like, longest straw to grasp onto.
Basically, I'm expecting
Just
Green Mage to
coincidentally.
have Shell, which is a basic 1-to-1 with Magic Barrier that doesn't have the heal amp.
No, I don't think. It might either just do the same thing that it does in Baja, or it's gonna be a different shell. Just kind of... I don't know. Honestly, I don't even think we'll get shell. I think shell is just a reference if we are going by the green shell kind of breadcrumb trail. I think either we're gonna get this as a raid buff or damage kind of cast, or we're just not getting it, and this is just a reference that we are getting a green mage. That's it.
But I also don't think that's unreasonable to also expect that they may get a single target mitigation in the form of Protect.
No.
Which would be rebranded, modernized Palisade.
Apocatastasis. I saw these fucking spells recently, didn't I? No, no. You're like putting a lot of fucking emphasis that this job is specifically going to be a support class that will have these like casts, even if they're OGCDs, specifically OGCDs to help the team. There's like, just because Green Mage was a support class in other ones, because like Sage was a damage dealer in other games, and yet we got it as a healer with a vastly revamped kit. So I think you're grasping at very, very loosely fucking placed straws. I don't think any of this is as much merit, because you're basing this on practically nothing other than references to old games.
Range physical DPS had that during Stormblood, or Apotheosis that Black Mage had, and it's like...
Because at this point, you think this one class, this one job, is gonna get like a lot of spells that were removed from the game, a lot of like support spells specifically. Like, they removed DOS, they're probably giving them to Green Mage. They removed other Stormblood spells, they're giving it to Green Mage. Maybe they're gonna give it the Celine's Isuna as well to Green Mage.
Likely to be damage neutral, really, so it's both Apotheosis...
Sorry, Celine also had an interrupt, maybe they'll give it to him too.
...and Palisade slammed together. No, I'm confident that the Protect of old that we know from like 2.0 is gone. It's so gone. And...
It's not gone. I'm convinced Cole didn't enter Baja.
Let's not forget, Kryle's job must have healing in it to make any sense with the story.
Yeah. He's been a healer, a scholar, an arcanist. I don't think this is gonna be like related to anything concerning healing.
And so we could see AoE heal over time akin to something like Summoner's Phoenix.
No, that would be broken. That would be stupid. Can you... That would be so busted. If you have two casters, like we're already replacing a third, like we're already replacing one of the melee slots usually with a caster. Usually a red mage or summoner. Between those two, I'm not seeing a lot of black mages these days. But it's like, if you have that as well, it's like, it's got to be a bit too busted. Way too busted.
Or Dancer's Curing Waltz, or Dancer also has...
Especially if you put a Reaper in there as well.
It's another healing button on a separate button called Improvisation.
You're comparing... It's like, this is supposed to be its own job. Why are you comparing them to other jobs and think they're all... it's gonna get all the stuff that other jobs don't get anymore, and other jobs that have something right now. These theories are very wild. I wasn't expecting to be like this frustrated with this video when I would start watching it. I thought it was just like a bit of theory crafting, but this is just being taken out of nowhere.
Can also become a barrier. I don't know if Green Mage will ever have a barrier. But remember, Dancer has those on 2 separate buttons, so...
But Dancer is actually, like, they refer to the Fizz range as the support class. They literally refer to them as that. They need to have some of those cooldowns.
Green Mage...
This is a caster, and you think the caster is going to have a melee weapon, too.
Mage could have Shell for raw mitigation, and then like a separate one for this heal. Now, could there be like an AoE heal and a single target burst heal, like Summoner goes and gets both Phoenix Everlasting Flight for the party and Rekindle for Phoenix, applying a massive single target heal? That's a beautiful heal. I love Rekindle so much. I don't think that it's unreasonable to draw parallels between 2 jobs in the same role. Summoner brings a lot of utility. And then, obviously, Green Mage uses debuffs to provide...
What are the parallels you're trying to draw? Between the 3 casters that we got, we have vastly different kits. Sure, they all got Addle. One of them is pure DPS. The other one has instacasts, some mitigation. That's it. The other one has a raid-wide heal. They're gonna have to bring something else other than mitigation and healing if you want to actually fit them amongst the 4 jobs. Otherwise, what was the point of making this brand new job if it's going to do the same thing other jobs are doing?
Provide utility.
Especially amongst like the minority jobs. No, Blue Mage doesn't count.
So it would get the role action Addle just like every other caster. Boom. Green Mage fantasy with the existing constraints of the game. You got the buffs, you got the debuffs. With plenty of utility, which I still retain is within the bounds of reasonable.
No.
Given the current job design and current
What? No.
job utility. We are not going to escape the homogenization, guys. I just can't see it. There's an elephant in this room. Let's talk about damage over time effects, because status
Sure, let's.
effects, love it or hate it, will not return to the old days of Miasma from Scholar applying a healing received reduction to...
Like, you need to understand, they need to make certain rotations for a lot of jobs so they're not specifically avoided in content, for example, in Savage or Ultimate specifically. Because that's the space where majority of raiding is done. However we want to feel, like, sure, Extreme is good, Normals are great, but majority of the most active and utilization of jobs is happening specifically in Savage and Ultimates. That's where you want to have these jobs. But like a lot of people will, for example, avoid Bard in DSR because their dots just don't last, and they have most of the time no target to activate the songs onto. It's like it's very difficult for specifically dot classes. It's like unless you're gonna have a dot that's 15 or 25 seconds, they're just gonna feel like very out of place in a lot of instances. They either need to revamp a lot of like instances specifically for this class, because you need some kind of rotation that's affected by your dots. It's not going to be just dots, right? There needs to be some interaction with those dots, but it's like there's not a lot of opportunities for that. We either need to sacrifice some of the fight puzzles, or some of the like we need to change the rating formula just for one job, or and hear me out, it's not gonna be a completely dot job. They might just have one dot. That's it. Like it might literally just be a black mage thing where they just have one dot, with possibly a proc that makes it instance after.
To the enemy and slow onto enemies. I love that stuff. Imagine for a second taking that into raid. Those debuffs mean less than nothing. And so that entire form of status effects is just flat out just gone. That's not going to happen in Final Fantasy XIV again. I cannot see it. But this massive Nicki Minaj-sized butt is we have a lot of existing code and systems for status effects to raise up damage. Green Mage could focus heavily here to fulfill Green Mage's debuffing fantasy.
I feel like no. Like that's not really a thing. It's like, how would you be buffing damage? Storm, are you still react? Yeah, I decided to actually finish this fucking video because like I thought I would just listen to some quirky fucking theories, but like all is actually making me frustrated. He's ignoring a lot of the content in game, and he's grasping at straws. Yeah, I'm done with tea.
Ranged physical DPS has Dancer and Bard that provide a metric ton of buffs to their team and
Why are you showing this picture again? Why are you not showing the RDPS to specifically show the effectiveness of Bard and Dancer? Why is this in front of me? Why are you showing me specifically ADPS right now?
facilitate their team's damage. A huge portion of their damage comes from buffing teammates, such as the Bard has persistent songs that they rotate between. Battle Cry for
Again, you need a target for that. And for example, if you go into DSR, your songs are just going to be stuck on certain rotations. You might have to skip songs, you might need to adjust them specifically, which is kind of fun, but it's like your dots are not going to get full value. And bards do a lot of damage specifically through procs and through the dots. This is I don't know why are you even showing me ADPS.
direct hit buff, and then Radiant Finale as a big party direct damage buff. Take Bard's Wanderer's Minuet song. That increases the entire party's critical hit chance by...
Okay, let's just say, for example, let's also Raging Strikes do not fucking count if we're specifically talking about increasing damage of your team. You increase your damage. Okay, Bard has that. You increase particular effects, either increasing direct hit rate or other. Sure, fine. You increase direct hit rate with Battle Voice, fine too. But if you have more buffs, they're just going to be diminishing returns. That means the value of one of the jobs is going to be way lower. There's a reason Dancer has different buff compared to Bard. There's a reason that Dancer increases crit strike and not direct hit rate. Like, what are you gonna give specifically to the Green Mage buff, whatever the fuck your idea is here, that's not gonna overlap and somehow grief the performance and the results of other jobs? It's just gonna bring diminishing returns at some point. They don't really go plus.
By 2%. Green Mage could have in its pile of damage to overtime effects one that increases the critical hit chance for everyone against that target by 2%, and that Green Mage tries to maintain 100% time up on that dot.
No, hold me, Padre. I don't think you understand just how broken that would be if you need 100% uptime on specifically 2% increase, even direct hitter, like even 1%. That is a lot of value. Way too much. Way too fucking much. Like even in World of Warcraft, we have a paladin who has auras, for example. At least used to. I'm not entirely sure what it does now, but it still has the sacrifice aura, where a percentage of damage goes to the paladin, unless like at a specific health threshold. And there's another aura that reduces everyone's damage specifically by like 1 or 2%. And at the end, that value is massive, because 2% of the entire fight on the entire team, massive. That is massive value. No, having a dot that increases something like this, no, this is... Everyone's gonna think this is BIS. Everyone's literally gonna replace the second melee with Green Mage if this is a thing. No, this is some psycho shit. Do not do this.
Or take Scholar's Chain Stratagem, another debuff that is applied to a target. An idea similar to that could be used for a stronger 2-minute cooldown for Green Mage. So,
like, even Chain Stratagem has a 2-minute cooldown. Why would you want a 2% on... No, I'm not
taking this concept in a very similar way to how Bard brings 3 different buffs through its songs and through like Radiant Finale and through Battle Voice, Green Mage could bring multiple...
You're literally talking about RDPS, and yet you keep repeatedly showing the picture of ADPS of the Bard and Dancer.
Status effects that they juggle during a burst window, and if you want raw buff, why not add something like a Searing Light equivalent? In this way...
So it's just gonna be a job that's gonna have a damage increase buff like everyone else every 2 minutes. What is the rest of the job fantasy? Yeah, it's like he's describing... I'm not entirely sure why does he think that like Green Mage is... If it's Green Mage, why is it gonna be like specifically gonna get everything that was removed from other jobs, and for some reason half of this job is what other jobs have. 2-minute damage increase, party buffs, mitigation. I don't know. He's all over the place, and also for. It still frustrates me that Cole thinks that the weapon for the Green Mage is going to be a hammer. A melee weapon on a caster is going to be their main weapon. That's no. Unless they're going to get a melee combo, but we already got a red mage for that.
This way, the fantasy of Green Mage would be fully imagined utility-wise.
No, there's not going to be a caster with full utility. There's got to be a caster with damage, with some utility that might be part of the rotation or not, similar to Summoner, but not really. They need to bring something new to the table that will, like, convince people to pick that over, for example, other casters. Like, for example, you can even see, like, the required jobs for Green Mage in Tactics. White Mage. They're gonna revamp the entire job. Going for the shell static or, like, the reference to other games is just a very far reach.
Buffing allies and debuffing, causing...
People were already saying Endwalker will have hammer class, and here we are. Yeah, people just want hammer, but it's like, Warrior got some hammers. It's like, we got some hammers. Then they started selling the hammers from Guy as well. Everyone got hammers, even Dragoons. It's like, and now they're not gonna have a hammer. It's just silly.
Status effects on the enemy. That's 100% within that fantasy. That is literally in that domain. Before we further explore, we need to talk about the elephant after the room. Damage
This is the second time he's about to talk about the elephant in the room.
over time effects. These are real status effects in Final Fantasy XIV that we see today. Wait, damage over time effects for a job? Preposterous, right? They have largely been reworked and purged from the game, so it can't be possible.
They're not purged from the game. We still got them. We literally got Bard. But Bard literally relies on those procs, and specifically on those dots to do damage, because there's a lot of play specifically around those 2 dots. But a lot of instances are just very unfriendly to Bard because of how those dots play. So unless you're going to have, again, dots that are 25 seconds or around that time, like, you want this job to have an active rotation of keeping up dots, have some in between rotation to do some damage, and you want this job to have a lot of utility. That's Bard. You just want Bard to be a caster at this point.
Well, the Green Mage would revolve around status effects. You're just insane, Cole. Well, no. Damage over
No, you are insane. A lot of this, whatever.
time effects have been in the game since 1.0 days, and spoiler alert, Thaumaturge, if you take a look at it, which I'm not getting...
If he only just took a second, Black Mages still have a dot.
To get into this video, has a huge list of spells and existed coded into the game that scream Green Mage.
Wait, what the fuck? Okay, let's see. Banish, maybe. Phantom Dart, no. Exaltation, no. Bloodrite, no. Sacrifice, no. Poison, maybe. Gravity, no. Slow, yes. Punishing Barbs, yes. Damnation, no. Bio, no, they're not gonna give Bio because Bio's already on another job. Dia already on another job. Dark Seal, no. Stygian Spikes, very far maybe. So far I've counted 2 spells that I'm seeing in the list that could be Green Mage equivalent.
2.0 Scholar and Summoner frankly piled on enough damage over time effects to make Affliction Warlocks from World of Warcraft blush, and even to this day in the current expansion we see damage over time effects.
No. Affliction Warlock... I don't think he plays these games. I think he just makes content. I don't... Because, like... If you only looked around, a lot of this... Whatever.
Tons of different varieties and flavors. All healers get 1 damage over time effect that they are expected to keep uptime on. It's boring, but every single healer has it. Dark Knight summons Frey, which is a glorified damage over time effect, and their Salted Earth Puddle, same shit.
You know, I'm still pretty sure that the reason that, for example, Scholar got lost his second dot or any damage around that was because a lot of bozos probably complain about Scholar letting the team die because they spend the GCD to renew dots instead of healing.
Same with the Machinist summoning Bob to do something, Bob do something, and many more examples exist.
Oh, Overwatch reference, I get it.
Yet, these are all just damage over time effects, with an awesome effect slapped on.
Oh yeah, Gunbreaker has 2 dots too.
Or take Bard's 2 damage over time effects, which, while on the surface seem simple, when they trigger their damage, they feed into activating other skills and effects, which is really cool, and I do see being expanded upon for a job like Green Mage that would be really in these damage over time effects. That is a very big domain for a game designer to play in. And if you don't believe me, check out
3 dots from every chat. What? Was there a 3rd dot?
Shadow Priest. Check out Affliction Warlock. There is so much potential there. I don't want to say Boomkin, but even they have some interplay. Now,
Why does he keep comparing to World of Warcraft? I know I make comparisons, but like, why does he keep thinking that we're gonna get something from World of Warcraft because World of Warcraft has it?
Now, did Paladin have their damage over time effects rolled up into their blade skill in patch 6.3? Yes, and developers stated that it was to add consistency to Paladin's burst phase, which opening that with the previous statement of
Honestly, if they just give us something to replace the atonements or buff, give atonements a combo as well, I feel like they have a good excuse to get rid of dots, honestly. If they just give atonements a combo as well. Like increase its potency. Or give us like 4 atonements to replace the need to do the dot. Actually, no, the dot is OGC. What the fuck am I talking about? But yeah, just increase the potency of atonement, turn it into a weird combo similar to Blade of Valor. You can probably get rid of the dot.
other damage over time effects in the current game is a large can of worms to open. So, why does Dark Knight still summon Living Shadow? Point being, unless
The fuck is that point? What do you mean?
we saw significant changes to almost all jobs,
Why does Dark Knight summon Living Shadow? Whatever.
damage over time effects are
He's showing the same pictures multiple times now.
still to this day extremely in the game and gonna come and draw on trail. Gunbreaker has some, Paladin still has some even. Blue Mage is frankly riddled with them. I'll talk about why burst consistency with the new green.
Blue Mage doesn't count. I don't think he gets it. Like, currently the jobs that have dots right now are damage jobs. Summoner lost those because Summoner was completely revamped. We might literally just still get our dots back in DT. Once, you know, the dust settles after the new job appearing. Dragoon has it too, but it's like healers got 1 dots for a reason, so they're not griefing groups by focusing on damage instead of healing. Well, they still do that, but I'm assuming not as much as they did in Stormblood.
Green Mage would be less of a concern. Spoiler, it's basically faster in that initial ramp. So if you're worried about
There you go, faster.
why Green Mage would have like any issue with consistent outgoing burst,
Those fights are just not designed around a dot class. They're just not. Like, some fights you can kind of manage as a support job. That's why Bard is like, he's not struggling too much. It's gonna be difficult for them to maintain their rotation. Because, for example, even in DSR, Thornton the Pierce, he's there for 30 seconds. You're losing 15 seconds worth of potency. Maybe more on your second dot, depending how you're reapplying them. Okay, use a song. You're losing that potency as well. You're relying on others to bring the damage for you as RDPS. That can work. But casters, this is just a very far reach just because you think Green Mage is going to be a support job. It's just not gonna be, because otherwise there's going to be just this massive disbalance. Massive, if there's going to be a support specifically amongst the casters.
Windows, there are many jobs in the current version of the game that you should be more worried about. But let's take a look at my baby. Summoner was my baby at 200 subs, and I made the outrageous 1 hour, 20-minute long Summoner guide that put me on the map, and oh my god. People are going to be like, did you make it for money? You don't get a single penny from YouTube below 1,000 subs. I did that out of pure love. I loved it. I never expected to pass 200, 300 subs. It's only...
Move along,
How to
please.
say it? I'm not the only
Any
one
year
though,
now.
that loves Summoner is the point I'm trying to say. The developers know this, and the developers have been undeniably hearing us cry aloud this expansion. We have been very
Yeah, we've been very loud. A lot of people have been doing nothing but crying.
loud to this expansion. So it makes sense for the new caster job to double down on the Affliction Warlock.
No. Absolutely not. Because then we would be crying, why did you take this from my job and give it to this silly job? I'm not even a caster. No.
Fantasy. Basically, Summoner was a giant load of baggage, combining the current Summoner, which is the pure Summoner
And you're showing the same picture. I don't know why he keeps repeatedly showing the same pictures.
Fantasy with the big beasts, and then Affliction Warlock. The design of old Summoner was kept bound between two separate worlds, two separate visions, with Summoner dropping the Affliction.
No, he had a normal fucking vision. It's just, you for some reason think that it's, because it's a summoner, it's based on Yuna from Final Fantasy X, and not literally any other fucking Final Fantasy for some reason. Because the kind of summoning you keep showing big summons, that's only Final Fantasy X. Actually, no, Final Fantasy Tactics as well, but... And Affliction Warlock, because of... fuck's sake. Just because they have a spec for dots only. That's nothing. Because fights are much different in World of Warcraft. That's why Affliction Warlock will even have a talent where they will put one dot, I don't remember which one, and it will be forever on targets. And even if targets will die, they will spread that dot across other targets, especially in AoE scenario. That used to be very fucking busted in Legion. It's like, both of these comparisons, like, I get you want this, but let's be reasonable here. We're not getting either of these.
Warlock side.
Maybe big summons if we get like a different LB3.
There has been left a void. A void a green mage would be very, very, very capable of filling.
No.
Dare I say that I would probably...
Fuck's sake. Paul is like all over the map. He wants big summons. He wants Affliction Warlock big dots. He wants utility. He wants support skills. And he still wants there's somewhere to be like some sort of rotation. So he wants like a bit of everything in one spot. That's just not gonna happen. And he wants to give them a melee weapon too. Like, Cole, if you ever see this video, just like all these factors, just lay them on the ground in front of me. Like grab a line, connect the dots. Like, it's like a lot of these dots are just not connecting. It's just gonna be a very big mess.
Probably quit healing for this DPS. Would I become a DPS main? Oh shit. I'll never quit healing, but I seriously do see myself maining this if it exists. Let's talk about the ability Fester, because this is very important for Green Mage. Obviously, it's going to be repackaged, it's going to have a different name, new effect.
No,
but I see it coming
won't.
back for Green Mage under a different name. Summoner has an ability named Fester, which exists.
Again, what is this based on? Like, Green Mage did buffs and debuffs, it didn't do dots. That's it. What is this based on? Do you want them to have dots for some fucking reason?
Today, but it used to deal more damage based on how many damage.
I hope I genuinely like hope Square Enix double downs and just takes out more dots out of the game just to annoy people.
Damage over time effects were on the
and not give any dots to Green Mage.
Target, and if you come from
if it's Green Mage.
World of Warcraft, definitely do think of Affliction Warlocks.
He keeps comparing it to World of Warcraft. Leave that game alone. We have our own game to play. If you want to play dots, just play World of Warcraft. Why are you fucking bothering with this?
Malefic Raptor ability and...
He made ASMNSHB guide. Peep a sweet.
I know. I don't know. I don't care. I am watching that.
During my short stay there, this was one of the most fun abilities to work with, and was widely regarded as a positive change by the community. But Fester with Dawn Trail, I expect Fester to be completely removed from the summoner because...
What? No, Fester good skill. Leave it.
It has a... It's frankly...
I hope they do evolve Fester, though, because Fester seems very just bland, just like... It's just nothing but OGCDs. Aetherflow, Fester, just into a burst window. Cool, done. I hope they kind of work on something into it. Even, hell, fucking give us 3 stacks. Even that's something.
And no interaction off GCD, which when they tighten the Summoner Fantasy, I don't see it staying. It just seems random at this point, like literally a relic from the old conflicted...
I do agree that it seems a bit out of place, but I hope they do fucking... I don't want them to remove it, because I kind of dig it. But I hope they actually improve on it, evolve it in some way.
Affliction Warlock Summoner design of the Summoner. But now let's talk about why Fester is so important, because it's a clear indication that if Paladin 6.83 change for consistent burst was a concern, that the damage over time base class would be able to utilize something like Fester to have that big burst during those windows.
You can almost hear the tinfoil hat on his head, don't you? It's kind of like shaky, a bit loose on his head, because he's connecting Trying to connect a lot of fucking dots. Paladin, Affliction Warlock, big summons from Final Fantasy X. Jobs lost. Jobs lost Shell and Protect. They lost dots. I genuinely wish he would just go into Baj and find those spells there.
Windows, which is always weird to say because damage over time effects generally do snapshot the current buffs that you do have at the time. In fact, I'd place good money that Green Mage would acquire Fester charges in combat, maybe like Sage gets Adderskull charges, or how Dancer gets Feathers actually. Dancer Feathers may be a better analogy because I really could see it going down that way.
Okay, Feathers maybe I see. As procs. I don't see them as procs from dots. Maybe from one dot, maybe. Like some kind of proc from a dot, not multiple dots. But,
And then Green Mage would just pop them during burst windows. But we'll talk about implementation in a different video because we have... I could probably talk 3 hours easily for...
You've been talking for like 15 minutes about this, and it's like, it's a lot of information without any merit. It's just a lot of like wishful thinking of what you want. But I guess you're not wrong for having an opinion and some theory, but it's still like I'm having trouble like accepting a lot of these theories. Like a lot of these theories just seem way out there.
that. I've done it in Discord already. I really could. Point is, Green Mage I'm fully convinced is what we're getting. It simply fills a niche in this game that is currently missing, and it can fulfill what...
What is that niche though? Support caster? No, that's not a niche. We have supports for that.
We are wanting from a Green Mage while still adhering to all the constraints given in current game design of 14 space without warping or breaking the game. There is nothing here as I went over all those skills, all those utilities, none of that I listed warps the game or bends the rules.
I guess, sure. But it's just taking a lot of stuff that we already have and putting it on something that's supposed to be new. It's like, it's not going to bring anything to the table if this is like what you want.
So I'm going to defer.
It's just going to be a job that you would pick because because you want to play physical range, but you kind of stuck to a caster role or something. I don't know.
To what I said at the start of the video, Green Mage with all of its status effects and buffs and debuffs very much can exist as a support caster. It strikes all the right chords with...
We're not getting a support caster because it's not a caster's role to be a support. We have so many melees. Why aren't any of them support melees? That's just this job, or this game unfortunately already has this like specific comp of jobs. The supports are all physical range. Maybe not machinist. But machinist is still useful now.
It's what the community has asked for. Kryl herself...
Nobody fucking asking for this.
As a character, the numerous hints towards the job, and simply makes sense in the current design space of 14. And
again, you're just saying a lot of wishful thinking, but not explaining why this would fit or why was this niche. You're just saying like they removed dots, but wouldn't it be cool if it was like this and this and this? Cool. Here, check out some ADPS from the support.
What we're missing, which leads into
we're
what
not
other
missing
builder
this.
spender system is needed. Well, you know what, we can talk about that in a different video, but point is, I definitely see this coming, and I'm sharing this video with you guys because I
don't.
genuinely am kind of excited because Green...
Like, we're all excited, we're all theorycrafting about Green Mage, but a lot of the stuff you're saying is just, it seems just a lot of like, if I think and wish for it a lot, I might get it. It's... You need to look at it at the perspective that how you need to balance some of the jobs and how you need to design the rotations and how they need to fit in. We got support jobs, which are the physical range. Unfortunately, they're stuck there unless Square Enix does something about it. Any extra buffs are just gonna be really out of place. Because then, yeah, it's gonna be really out of place. Because 2 out of 3 Fizz ranges already buff. Like, specifically, that's their job to buff. And you're gonna bring another caster with specifically a designed combat style like that. You're losing a DPS for a small margin of RDPS. There's a reason, like, we have only, like, just one job that can do, like, constant buffing. There's a reason buffs are only 2 minutes now. Having another job is actually going to be very counterintuitive for the team. Unless they're gonna bring another Fizz rank job that like Machinist that's just gonna do pure damage. Or everyone was just gonna be playing Machinist only. But it's not worth it because Dancer brings a lot more than Machinist. It's like you can see that there's a lot of like questioning. Like sure, in Extreme Trials or Savage reclears, people are just gonna join with whatever. But like when people are actually gonna be working on comps and trying to make teams, it's like why would they pick something like this when they can pick something better? Because they will most likely bring either a Dancer or a Machinist. We have plenty of buffs as is. And why would they bring Green Mage with all this quirky utility for less damage? Because they will do less damage. You cannot have a bunch of utility and then also deal lots of damage, even if it's RDPS. RDPS requires other jobs to be like specifically damage oriented. I don't know. This is. I wasn't expecting to get this frustrated about this video because this is just a lot of nothing. Oh well, it's a video, I guess.